Hello and welcome to the Sunday Recap Podcast. I'm Big Italy 42. He is Jason Gilbo at JGilbo11. We're talking about, of course, Sunday's action, and if you were someone who played any of the obvious plays, you're likely not having a very good Monday morning, much like many of us. We'll get to those here in a few minutes. Raiders and Lions. Lions last week had a good game against Aaron Rodgers, but throughout the season have been a terrible defense. Derek Carr was one of the hotter quarterbacks in the entire league. Then all of a sudden, he ruined everyone's cash game lineups that played him. Michael Target, Michael Crabtree did see 11 targets. 6 for 50 is an okay thing. He probably didn't kill your team, probably didn't help your team that much though. And then we just see a whole lot of just garbage from this game where we thought there was going to be some potential. Matt Stafford ended up somehow crushing Derek Carr relatively, and it was just one of those games that if you played the guys that seemed like they're in the best spots, you lost.
Yeah, I mean, this is a perfect game to really start out with and unleash our frustration because this was brutal. I mean, I had Derek Carr everywhere cash game. I had shares of Calvin Johnson, nowhere to be seen. Crabtree as well. I did avoid Amari Cooper, so I did successfully do that, but I should have obviously had more Matt Prater. That was the obvious play from this game.
Well, I mean, as a SNL fan, I do know that Jesus loves Matt Prater, and he never actually loved Tim Tebow, so he's still looking out for him. So you could thank the big guy upstairs for that one. But yeah, I luckily avoided the Amari Cooper bullet. Less than one actual point on FanDuel. So to those of you who had him, sorry. Next up, Jets and Texans. As someone who played a lot of the Jets defense, who seemingly plays well when they're in bad spots and does not play well when they're in good spots. Still a very talented unit, but TJ Yates finally beat a team that's not named the Cincinnati Bengals. And, I mean, he looked good. And Hopkins, we were scared off him, or I don't know if everyone was. I was afraid to play him. I had him sparingly in a few tournaments, but very, very, very little. And he looked incredible in this game.
Yeah, I mean, if you got Cecil Shorts and TJ Yates tossing you touchdown passes, I mean, that's pretty insane. Against Revis, I mean, if I was pivoting, it was to Julio Jones if I was paying up just because he had a bit of an easier matchup with Monte Davis, which still both not great matchups, but I was going that way anyway because Revis Island, usually you don't leave. So, but, I mean, Hopkins just dominated. I mean, he's unreal.
Yep. Yeah, and he definitely asserted himself. He's been asserting himself all year as one of the better receivers in the league. And I mean, you play like that in a matchup like this. I mean, you've certainly arrived. And on the Jets side, you mentioned Chris Ivory here was banged up because he was a player that was on one of my rosters. Of course, he wasn't completely healthy. And I mean, he wasn't bad for what he got. He said 8 for 36 here, which I mean, his yards per carry wise is fine, but you're certainly not playing a guy like Chris Ivory to see him get 8 carries. I mean, you're playing him for one reason, that's volume and goal line carries, and he didn't really see either in this one.
No, it was disappointing. I had shares of Ivory. If a player did bad, I had shares of him this week. I mean, that's just the way it was.
Yeah, it was one of those weeks in the NFL, which we've seen, unfortunately, quite a few of them. Bucks and Eagles, though, a lot of people wanted to target this game. Hopefully you targeted the opposite side because a lot of people were on Sanchez and Jordan Matthews. Maybe they're not friends anymore. They certainly didn't act like they were friends this week. It looked like we saw Mark Sanchez completing as many passes to Buccaneers players as he completed to Jordan Matthews. So if you had the over-under on that, then good for you. But really on the other side, I mean, Doug Martin looked incredible. He looked unstoppable. Over 230 yards. Jameis Winston, 5 touchdowns. All of a sudden, he's an efficient quarterback. And, I mean, if we're talking about spreading the wealth, this is a game I didn't watch much of. I was out with the family, but then I see Jameis Winston with all these touchdowns. And as someone who had a bunch of Mike Evans, I'm thinking Mike Evans had a huge game. And he had a good game, very good game, but with a touchdown. But you see 5 touchdowns from Jameis Winston, and it's hard to see them all going to – and like that touchdown to Charles Sims – probably the worst pass I've ever seen. And Charles Sims falling backwards just kind of and stumbles into the end zone. Ridiculous.
Well, yeah, I mean, you look at Cam Newton and Jameis Winston, they threw 10 touchdowns. I believe Newton didn't find anyone twice. I think they threw to 10 different guys combined, so it was crazy week for the NFC South there.
Yeah, and I mean, Doug Martin just continues to, I mean, he's had his ups and his downs, but continued to be, when he gets a lot of touches, a really solid option. And somehow, through all these touchdowns, they don't reward the guy who really made the entire game happen with a single touchdown. So, let's get this man in the end zone. If anyone earned it this week, it was Doug Martin. So,
yeah, still over 20 fantasy points on just solely yardage. I mean, that's insane.
Yeah, I mean that was a hell of a performance by him. Broncos and Bears, on the other hand, we saw right off the bat Osweiler to Demaryius Thomas, and as someone who was foolish enough to play that duo in a couple games, I got way too excited, way too early. Thomas really did nothing after about the first 3 minutes of the game. Osweiler did get another late touchdown, and the Bears tried to get in there late, scored a touchdown, and then just terrible play call for the it looked like the 2-point conversion is high. They go with a delayed handoff up the middle. Everyone's in the pile up the middle. No one to the left, no one to the right, and Langford runs right into the pile.
Yeah, it's typical Bears. Cutler, not carrying out there. Marquise Wilson probably was a big plus from this side. No Jeffrey this week. He was ruled inactive before the game. Wilson had 102 yards there. Not the touchdown, but got 4 receptions.
Yeah, and we see over here Brock Osweiler. I mean, he was efficient for his first start, 20 of 27, a couple touchdowns. And the Bears aren't a bad defense that they were at the beginning of the year. I mean, this has actually been a pretty good unit. So not a bad debut for him there. Rams and Ravens. If you had your money on multiple starters for the Ravens getting injured here, that's about the only way you made any money on this game. Joe Flacco now, I don't know if it's official. They rumored torn ACL. Either way, he's done. Justin Forsett broke his arm. You probably didn't have many shares of either one. Hopefully you didn't. You probably shouldn't have. And then looking on the Rams side, it was a whole lot of absolute garbage. I mean, if you chase the Case Keenum points, I don't want to say you shouldn't have. It was, I guess, still a good matchup, but it just proved that there's no weapons in that Rams offense, and he didn't get the ball to anyone. I mean, it was a horrible game on both sides. One of those games where neither team deserved to win, and someone had to.
Yeah, I mean, I put here. I mean, this was the game you just put a big red X through because you weren't going to play anyone from it. I mean, I guess Todd Gurley, because of the whole situation with running backs this week, actually kind of looks good now. But I mean, he only had 66 yards and a touchdown. It's not great for the price, but on any other week where we got guys who are healthy, like Freeman and Peterson, maybe does something, Gurley doesn't pay off his price tag.
Yeah, like you said, relative to salary, it's not a good performance, but relative to the bad landscape at running back this week, it was pretty good. And you mentioned here, this is not a team anymore, no longer an active team. NFL's down to 31 teams. So the Ravens, maybe they move back to Cleveland. I don't know what they're going to do, but they serve very little purpose right now, and yeah, it's an ugly situation for them. So they're going to be looking at a top 5 draft pick for sure. Cowboys and Dolphins here. Tony Romo struggled early, ended up doing well, got the touchdown to Dez Bryant. Dez Bryant had to go and yell at the Dolphins fans for a couple minutes after his touchdown because he was proud of himself. But I'm personally not a Cowboys fan, but I love Tony Romo. I'm excited to see him back. That whole division is so bad. It's so much more exciting when you've got Tony Romo, especially right before Thanksgiving. I'm definitely excited to see him back. And, no one wanted to watch Brandon Weeden or Matt Castle or any of these guys on Thanksgiving. So, thankfully, Tony Romo finally healthy in time for Thanksgiving, because that was going to ruin my Thanksgiving not having him.
Yeah, we're looking at possibly 3 absolute awful games for Thanksgiving, but at least he can give us something. And he also gives us upside for the future because guys like Bryant, I think he really helps out McFadden. Witten going to be a nice tight end guy for the rest of the way. So speaking of McFadden, I mean, we were kind of worried because of the groin issue, but the guy carried the ball 29 times for 129 yards, a couple catches for 20 yards there. Another one who just works his ass off and then doesn't find the end zone.
Yeah, I mean, he does all the hard work, and then they let everyone else just walk into the end zone. But on the Dolphins side, we see these first 2 games, everyone classic overreaction under the new regime after Joe Philbin was gone. And, I mean, they have been just awful recently. It's been bad. Really, you're looking at Lamar Miller is their best offensive weapon, and he gets 7 carries. I mean, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. This is obviously a team I guess they're in rebuild mode. You asked them a month ago, they think that they were a contender. They never really were, to be honest. But, I mean, if you get your best player 7 carries in this game, I mean, you wonder why you lost this game. It seems pretty simple to me.
Yeah, and just 3 targets in the passing game. And it's not like you were down to the Cowboys trying to come back from 3-4 touchdowns.
It was a close game.
Yeah. I mean, I call it, Dolphins, AFC's version of Philadelphia Eagles, where 1 week they're either 40-plus points or the next week they're putting up 13. Like, it's one or the other.
Yeah, it's not pretty. And speaking of not pretty, Redskins and Panthers, I was out, like I said. First thing I saw was the score of this game right after halftime, and I mean, your eyes just pop out of your head. And Cam Newton was incredible. 5 touchdowns on just 246 passing yards. I mean, that's efficiency for you right there. And Devin Funchess finally got his big breakout game. Well, I won't say big, but relative to salary, it was a big breakout game. 4 for 64 and a touchdown. Newton, like you said, spread everywhere. And once again, we see Kirk Cousins. He's good at home against bad teams, and any other situation, any other team, any other place, no.
Yeah. He finally faced a real defense, which, when he does, he's absolutely awful, and kind of lucked out with a nice Deshaun Jackson long bomb, which happens every now and then. There was no "you like that" this week. It was, I'm going to go sit in the locker room and cry for a little bit.
Yeah. It was enjoy your moment that you already had. This was not one of them, but I just don't know that anyone really expected him to have a big game here. I certainly didn't.
No.
I don't like to target the Panthers with even the best quarterbacks, but certainly not a Kirk Cousins type. Your Colts against the Falcons here. Andrew Luck out, and Matt Ryan handed the game right over on a little silver platter there with that interception, that little pick six on. I don't even know what that pass was. It wasn't a screen pass. It was a gift, really. I mean, that was an early Christmas present because that was one of the worst reads I've ever seen. So, but the real story in this one, Devonta Freeman, I had him, you had him, everyone else had him. And if you didn't have him, you should have had him. But you dodged a bullet there. And 3 carries for 43 yards, looked like a great start. And then finished with 3 carries, 43 yards because he got crushed, left with a concussion. And there goes your cash game lineups with that expensive player just out.
Yep, I went to take my Sunday nap early. Saw he was out at about 1:15. I was like, oh, that goes my day.
Grab a beer for your second hand. Devonta Freeman's got a concussion.
That was probably the most brutal week. I mean, just fantasy-wise with Freeman leaving. I mean, that was just crushing.
Yep.
And, looking at guys who are scoring, Patrick DeMarco, 2 touchdowns. I mean, that's who's filling in for the Falcons, not Julio Jones Hankerson had a nice touchdown there, so you got to like that in his return. But overall, you're elite, Matt Ryan, not so elite, if you believe that.
Yeah, I'm certainly not a Matt Ryan truther here. And if you had Ahmad Bradshaw for 2 touchdown passes, then well done, because he caught a couple touchdown passes from Hasselbeck. So this is just that game that if you paid up, or even if you paid it all for players in this game, you messed up. Unless it was Julio Jones, who did have a really big game. But even he, I mean, it was all inside the 20s pretty much. I mean, he didn't get a touchdown either. Yeah. 9 for 160. Get this man a touchdown. Just saying. I mean, it was against, heard Vontae Davis was going to be shadowing him. Everyone was scared off him, and Julio once again asserted himself as one of the best with a big performance there. So unfortunately for him, not in the end zone, but really, I mean, he still paid off his price tag pretty nicely on a week where top receivers didn't do a whole hell of a lot.
Yeah, and if there was something I got right this week, I did say Vontae Davis was going to leave the game with a hamstring injury last on the wide receiver, the matchup podcast or whatever there. Yeah. So I said it. I was like, Vontae Davis, he's going to miss some plays.
And what happened? If I had to guard Julio Jones, I'd probably
I'd fake a hammy.
Yeah, I'd be like, oh, this one's. I better go sit in the locker room. This is a pretty tough matchup for me. But either way, yeah. And speaking of tough matchups, the Chiefs. Jekyll and Hyde type of team here. First couple weeks of the season, they looked like one of the worst, if not the worst team in all of football. They were terrible. Couldn't stop anyone on defense. Their offense was stalling every time they got near the red zone, and Cairo Santos kicked 61 field goals a game. And then now, all of a sudden, the defense is playing well. The offense is good enough. And you see tons of running back production. A couple late touchdowns here. So Charkandrick West, of course, got hurt and left the game. But, everyone kind of had him. So West, yeah, he hurt your teams, but he probably didn't kill you. I mean, he killed you in tournaments, certainly, but in cash games, it was so popular and so cheap that he probably didn't kill you there. But definitely upsetting. And the Chargers, I mean, I blame that mustache that Phillip Rivers was rocking yesterday, because I don't know what the hell that thing was, but you do not deserve to win a football game looking like that.
No, I mean, I think he was just probably hiding. He wasn't doing anything. He's the little red dot on your website now when you're looking for homes. So, I mean, the Chargers lost. I mean, we've been kind of picking on the Chiefs. We've been getting pieces the last few weeks against them just because they've been paying off a little bit. But, I mean, it's not been the team that we really targeted against over the first couple of weeks of the season. They've really bounced back and been a tough side. And they're right in the mix of things for AFC. Kind of surprising.
Yeah, and I mean, this is a defense that was one of the better units last year. I mean, they're a talented unit. They just struggled earlier. So, yeah, definitely one of those ones that we're not going to be blindly picking on anymore. It's going to be back to 2014 Chiefs, where kind of where we expected them to be at the beginning of the year, at least. Packers and Vikings here. We see the Vikings with that little lob pass early. Kyle Rudolph took the lead. Then they missed the extra point. It was all downhill from there. You kind of knew. I mean, unless maybe you're a Vikings fan, you kind of knew this is a game the Packers were going to win. There was no way the Packers were going to go in here and lose this game and fall 2 games behind the Vikings. Like, you just didn't see it. And Eddie Lacy, you can talk about Eddie Lacy because
he is the worst.
He's still dead to me. He's still dead.
He is the absolute worst. I mean, Minnesota's run defense is actually decent. I don't care where you see the rankings. I think they're pretty solid. And you know what? He gets touches. He gets 22 carries after Starks is still the guy this week. 100 yards, but he looked good. But, I mean, luckily for us, I'm not going to play a Thanksgiving slate, maybe for fun. So we get a nice little target of, hey, is he actually back? Because he'll have another week of trying to prove us, we should actually take him.
Yeah, and then we saw one. I thought the best play of the week, really, from any position, was the Aaron Rodgers touchdown to James Jones. Runs out of the pocket, getting close to the boundary, just a perfect throw. 2 little toe taps down there in the end zone. So if you haven't seen that play, I mean, he made it look so simple, but that's such an impossible play, really on both ends. I mean, that was so beautiful. If you're a fan of good football,
gorgeous.
It was the most beautiful play of the week. Incredible. So watch that because you need to see that if you're a fan of good football. That was great. Minnesota side, Kyle Rudolph. At least he didn't steal a red zone touchdown. It was a long touchdown, which is kind of rare because normally you have Adrian Peterson, Rudolph's going to steal that 2-yard touchdown. But 6 for 106 and a touchdown there. And, Teddy Bridgewater wasn't bad. I mean, 296 yards, but also we saw a lot of that coming late. I mean, Packers were up by 2 scores in the third quarter, and then we kind of see him just trying to get him back in the game. And, I mean, it was a valiant effort, but, I mean, we knew who the better team was here. With a consistent running game, as you point out here in the article, with a consistent running game, Packers still one of the better teams in the league.
Yeah, I think if they can get that going, you're going to see a lot of success in the passing game. And talk about Minnesota, I mean, they're such a game script offense. It's insane. I mean, the Pearson fumble didn't help. They were kind of looking like they could pull back into it. But, you see when they're coming from behind, I mean, Diggs has a little bit of a momentum there with 6 balls for 66 yards. Rudolph, obviously, we're not expecting that each week. But, I mean, Diggs is probably the one we have our eye on. But, I mean, when Minnesota can hand the ball off and win 25 times to Adrian Peterson, Diggs isn't going to be there. So you kind of got to look for those matchups if you want to take shots at Diggs, ones where they're probably going to be trailing from behind.
Yeah, that's a good point there. Speaking of undrafted rookies, not that Stephon Diggs is that. He's not that. But Thomas Rawls, though, all of a sudden, this guy goes from not being drafted to already having 2 games better than Marshawn Lynch's best game ever. I mean, over 200 yards on 30 carries, 2 touchdowns. This was the guy that if you pivoted to him late after the Marshawn Lynch news, or if you just took a shot on him beforehand, he was one that Denny and I were talking about on Friday on the slate breakdown. We said, hopefully we hear for sure before 1 o'clock that Marshawn Lynch is out, because we said, how much Thomas Rawls do you play? We said, all of it, of course. But, of course, in true Pete Carroll fashion, we don't hear news about this until it's too late to make that swap, at least on FanDuel. So if you swap to him late on DraftKings, it doesn't matter. If you played Thomas Rawls, I saw he was 0.1% owned in the Sunday Million on FanDuel. Obviously, he's in the top lineup. There was really no one that panned out very well at all. Scored almost 40 points on there, over 40 on DraftKings. I mean, he was the play of the week on a really, really low-scoring week. If you played Thomas Rawls, you made money.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly thought Marshawn, I mean, he's probably never healthy, but we just don't know about it. But, I mean, it's like they have him locked up in a vault. No one can get information out of those 2 with Pete Carroll and Lynch. I thought we were in for another Lynch 49ers meltdown there. But no, it was Thomas Rawls. I didn't have any Lynch shares, but,
Yeah, it was rough. But the Seattle Seahawks defense continues to just be there and not be great. This is not the defensive unit we're known we know as a dominant one that we've seen over the past couple of years. I mean, they're good, but they aren't the type that just shuts you down, which has been a disappointment, especially if you paid up for them yesterday. I mean, Blaine Gabbert wasn't great, but, I mean, like you mentioned, only 2 sacks. I mean, that's pretty inexcusable for a team that, I mean, yeah, they had Anquan Bolden back, but he wasn't completely healthy. You see him wearing sweatpants on the sidelines to stay warm. I mean, it was just you if you're the Seattle Seahawks, I know it's an impressive win, but I mean this defense is still just looks like a disappointment to me.
Yeah, very average for fantasy purposes. I mean, I'm looking elsewhere. I'm not targeting them for the rest of the season. I figured at home, you figure they're a different, better environment. I mean, they just play differently at home, and it just wasn't the case this week.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of wasn't the case this week, this was not the week that my Bengals got their revenge on Carson Palmer. Early, it looked like they were going to. A couple early interceptions. And then it just kind of unraveled from there. Some really dumb penalties, some really questionable penalties. Marvin Lewis continues to not know how to read a clock. Just terrible time management as usual, giving the Cardinals enough time to win. And credit to Carson Palmer. I still hate the guy, but either he or Larry Fitzgerald's lying about what happened on that last play anyway, because Fitz said that it had been happening all game. Palmer said it was just that game. I liked Larry Fitzgerald, and I trust him. So Carson Palmer wins the game, but he's a liar.
All right. I mean, I have no opinion on this game. I thought it was a great game.
It was a great game. It was.
I didn't have any fantasy shares in. I was just figured, you know what? I think it's going to be tough matchup. I know both the passing attacks have been really solid this season, but I was like, these secondaries are pretty solid too. So I was like, I'll take chances on Lions and Raiders, and looked how that worked out.
Yeah, I mean, and you and I were talking before the show a little bit. Adam Jones being out for the Bengals there was a big loss in that passing game, and we saw a couple just bad mistakes in the secondary. And not to make excuses, I mean, both teams played well. And as an Andy Dalton truther, I've seen a lot of hate for Andy Dalton this morning, and I don't understand it because blame whoever you want for this game. Andy Dalton was not the reason the Bengals lost the game. Yeah. I don't think. But either way, it was a fun game to watch. Disappointing end if you're a Bengals fan, but as just a football fan, I mean, it was a really fun game to watch. Really weird ending, but it was a great back and forth game. I mean, both teams looked good. Like they looked like the two teams that are going to be playoff contenders. Come playoff time, it was just the home team won a close game, so they deserved it.
Yeah. I just want to tip my hat to Jeremy Hill for the 2 touchdowns for my season-long team, who I'm still consistently riding Jeremy Hill because I have nobody else. So thank you.
I've got him in a couple dynasty leagues, and I just say, please get in the end zone.
Yeah,
please get in
30
there.
yards, 2 touchdowns. Thank you.
Yeah, the Chris Ivory line from a few weeks ago. That was what he did last night. But either way, there was a decent amount of production. I mean, Tyler Eifert got a couple scores again, so he just continues to be a great red zone target. But either way, that'll wrap things up for us for this week. Find us on Twitter at DF Cafe. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Lots of other great content at dailyfantasycafe.com.